Hey guys, so I just logged into portal.azure.com. So I think I'm going to show how to create a virtual machine first, and then you can actually work on practicing the labs and that are required for setting up the domain controller, and also make sure you so this is the first thing, right? First of all, you have to create a virtual machine, which is the basic step that is required to be able to spin up any new additional infrastructure. So how you create a virtual machine is like, I have only one machine right now, which is I already set it up as a domain controller. Now I'm going to create a new virtual machine. So you can follow the same procedure for creating the domain controller as well. So I select, this is the resource group I already created. If you don't have one already, you can click on create new, and then basically create a new resource group. Resource group is nothing but a container to hold all the virtual machines, right? So the virtual machine name I'm giving server01, just to make it easy. I think most of my other existing infrastructure is in US West, but let me confirm. So I open a new tab, the portal. I can see, yeah, this is West US. So I'm going to create in the same region, right? So I select same West US 3, and then availability options. So this is a lab, you don't want to spend too much money, so I just select the basic option, no infrastructure redundancy required. In security type, leave it standard. In the image, I think this is important, right? What kind of operating system you want to deploy. So since I'm deploying this for the client server kind of thing, so I'm going to choose Windows Server 2016, any server, right? Windows Server 2019, 2016, 2022, doesn't matter, but I'm just going a little bit older version just to avoid any bugs or anything like that. So I choose 2016 data center generation 2, and then I choose by default x64. Then here it's showing the default B1S burst size. I'm going to click on see all sizes. I'm going to select D2AS V4. I know it's going to cost a little bit, but during the practice time I think this has like good configuration, so it's not going to be very slow, right? So for credentials, I'm using rport.ru, and then probably I think I have it saved already. So okay, so rport.ru, and since I need this, you can provide your complex password, right? That's okay. Public inbound ports, I need to RDP into it, so I choose default 3389. Right, so next. So you don't want to spend too much money on the OS disk, so select the least option, standard HDD, and then delete with VM. Yeah, mark it on, and then encryption type, keep it default everything. I think yeah, let's leave it that way. I'm gonna come back to it to actually do some practices later. So choose it default, but if you are doing for the first time, you may have to create a new virtual network. Just keep it default, right? And then it will pick up something default, right? You're creating a public IP, so you can log into the machine. Keep everything default just to make it easy, right? And then select this option so you don't get charged after you delete the VM. And then next. Okay, keep everything default, don't change anything. Keep default, don't change anything. Next. Okay, and then you don't need to do anything here, just keep it simple. So review and create. So initially it's going to validate if all the settings are properly provided, and then it will provide some errors if there is some any issues, and then we can fix those issues. But looks like my validation is good, so it looks like it already passed. So I'm going to create a so once I create, what it does is, it will take all these parameters, and it's going to, in the back end, it's all Azure Resource Manager, so it will take all those parameters and try to create, running the Azure Resource Manager using all these, parameters that we supplied. So as you can see, even the deployment is in progress. So there are several steps in process while creating the virtual machine. So including okay, I have some deployment failed, so that's good. We can get to know what happened. Okay, looks like it already says that conflict. Okay, so that means the public IP seems to be in conflict, meaning which is already being used somewhere else, right? So what we need to do is go back to the click on the operation details. It says the public IP seems to be having an issue. So let's go back and quickly change inputs. Go back to the virtual machines again. I go to my resource group. I just want to see what's out there. This is the resource group I created. So if I sort by type, I see 1, 2, 3 public IP addresses. So it looks like I think I already created a server 01 IP before, but I don't think I cleaned up properly. So I'm going to clean it up right now, and then create a new virtual machine again. All right, delete. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so it's going to delete those entries. So these entries exist because I already created server 01 before, and then I deleted the VM. But when when the VM got deleted, I think it all the entities around the public IP, and they are still associated, and that's why we were getting that issue. If I go back to the virtual machine, I try to go ahead and create a new virtual machine again. Maybe just to avoid any issues, so I'm going to pick server 02 this time. So that's a unique name, and then I keep everything same. 2016 Gen 2, blah blah blah, and then I'm going to pick the family size. User ID and password. Alright, pick something complex here, but make sure you remember what you are giving it, because you need that to be able to log into that virtual machine. Keep the default again. Next, change this to standard HDD. Alright, next, networking. Alright, new. So this is new, right? So I think this is where we got issue before. So make sure that you check this option. Then next, review and create. Let's quickly validate it. Okay, validation is passed. So I'm going to click create. So it's going to take some time, so it's going to run the deployment, and we can watch the status, what's happening here while this is being deployed. As you can see, it will start creating public IP, NSG, if there are all the components that exist as part of creating the virtual machine. So it goes step by step. Okay, as you can see, as part of the Microsoft Compute, it's trying to create a virtual machine, and then network interfaces, public IP address, and NSG. So it's going to try creating each one by one, and it's going to associate with everything through the VM. So what is a virtual machine, right? Virtual machine is nothing but a bunch of files that is going to constitute, and it has a disk, it has a NIC card, it has IP address, it has CPU memory. So all those components combine everything, it is a VM, right? So in the back end, it's nothing but a bunch of virtual machine files, like similar to disk. For every disk, disk is going to have a file. In Azure, it is in the format VHD. In the VMware, it's a VMDK. So usually, disk in the back end is good to remember, good to know what actually is a disk and how is it being stored in the back end, right? So it's stored in a .vhd format in Azure, right? So in Azure Hyper-V world. But if you think of VMware, the same disk, when you have like C drive, D drive, they are actually, all the data is stored in a VMDK format in the back end. So that's that is something to know. But when you actually doing the migrations, data center migrations, migrating all the data from on-premise to the cloud, so those understanding what the disks and how they are formatted is very important. So anyway, so we got the virtual machine created. So now after we got it, so we log into it, right? So I usually connect to RDP. Then I'm downloading the RDP file. So double click it, and you have a prompt like this, and then connect. And then more choices, user account. So you have to provide the account that you are logging, that you created during the deployment, right? So I'm going to provide the user ID, password. So you got a prompt like this, and then you click S, and you should be able to see everything is coming on my other screen. So hold on. So you should be able to log into the virtual machine, something like this. So all right, it's going to take a while because we just deployed this VM. So the moment you log in, your profile, user profile, everything is created as part of it. So this is the server, right? So yeah, this is how to create a virtual machine and be able to log into the RDP into the virtual machine, right? Okay. Yeah, thanks guys.